So imagine someone hands you a bank account and there are millions of dollars in it.
Okay.
Like, it is legally yours, it's in your name, but the moment they hand you the debit card, they lay down this like one unbreakable rule.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, the rule is you are never, ever allowed to spend a single cent of it on yourself.
Wait, really? Not even like a coffee?
Not a penny. Your only job, your only purpose for having this money is to use it to pay other people's bills, fix their problems. And if there happens to be like anything left over at the end of the day, you're supposed to feel guilty for just holding on to it.
I mean, that sounds awful. It's like a bizarre curse. You get this massive resource, but you're explicitly forbidden from actually enjoying it.
Right. It's a completely bizarre, punishing setup. But that exact scenario is basically what we are unpacking today in our deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at this orientation essay by Todd and Julia Reinhardt. It's called Why Your Happiness Belongs at the Center of Your Life.
Such a great title.
It is. And our mission today is really to just dive into this incredibly provocative framework they've built. Because they argue that happiness isn't just, a nice to have luxury or a side effect. They say it is the absolute moral purpose of a human life.
Which is huge.
It is huge. Because when you step back and look at how we talk about life itself, that whole bank account analogy I just gave, that's the exact moral framework so many of us are just handed from birth. We get this one singular life, but the second we prioritize our own success or, our ambition, we're immediately told we're being selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is, why the Reinhardt's premise feels so incredibly countercultural right now.
Yeah.
They are advocating for what they call a rational, reality-based morality.
Mm-hmm.
So in their view, your life is not a debt that you owe to the world. And it certainly isn't some sort of punishment you have to just endure.
Right.
But for centuries, you look at various cultural systems, religious systems, political systems, they all treat self-interest with this intense moral suspicion.
Oh, totally. Like, you're a bad person if you want things for yourself.
Exactly. The implicit message is almost always that your life only becomes good or, noble when you put yourself second. And the authors actually have a term for this. They call it a demand for self-erasure.
Self-erasure. Man,
Yeah.
that's a heavy term.
It is, yeah.
But it really perfectly captures that feeling, right? That
Yeah.
feeling of constantly shrinking your own needs just to accommodate everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, before I could fully buy into this whole idea of, putting my own happiness at the absolute center of the universe, I really had to figure out how the authors were actually defining the word happiness.
Oh, for sure. Because it's a loaded word.
It's so loaded. Because I read that title and a part of me was like, oh, cool. So does that mean I just get to drop all my responsibilities, max out my credit cards and just do whatever feels good right now?
Right. The Vegas weekend approach to life.
Exactly. Just total hedonism.
Yeah. And that is exactly the trap of confusing happiness with hedonism. And the authors, they draw a really, really strict line there.
They really do.
Yeah, they point out that, a quick thrill or a weekend escape or just following every single good-feeling impulse you have, that usually just buys you temporary comfort.
Mm.
But it comes at the direct expense of your long-term well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Hedonism is inherently reactionary. It's just chasing the next dopamine hit. It's not sustainable.
The way I kind of conceptualized their distinction, I was thinking about it like building a house.
Okay, yeah.
So hedonism is like, it's like using cheap, quick-drying glue to hold the entire frame of a house together.
Oh, man.
Right. Like, it feels incredibly fast. You get immediate results. And you can stand back in 2 hours and be like, look, I built a wall.
Sure, it looks like a wall.
It looks great. But the literal moment a storm rolls in, the entire thing just completely collapses, right? Because there's zero structural integrity.
Exactly.
But true happiness, at least in the author's framework, it's more like taking the agonizing, tedious time to dig a trench and pour a really deep concrete foundation. It doesn't give you that immediate rush of, the dopamine hit, but it creates something that can actually withstand reality.
That is a perfect analogy.
Oh.
Because the authors define this kind of real happiness as, let me get the wording right, the sustained emotional reward of living in alignment with reality, reason, worthy values, and productive work.
Okay, wow. That's a dense definition.
It is, but the really key word in that whole sentence is reward.
Reward.
Yeah, happiness is an effect. It's what life feels like when your thinking and your choices and your character are actually operating in harmony. You can't just snap your fingers and summon it on command.
Right.
And you certainly can't cheat your way to it.
Yeah.
Because, and this is probably the most famous quote from the text, reality does not negotiate with evasion.
Oh, man.
Reality does not negotiate with evasion. That line, I mean, that literally stopped me in my tracks when I read it.
Right. It's so powerful.
It's just, it forces morality completely out of the realm of, like, subjective feelings, you know?
And it grounds it entirely in objective facts. Like, you can't fake competence at your job and expect to actually achieve anything lasting.
Yeah, you'll get found out.
Exactly. Or, you can't fake emotional vulnerability and expect to have real intimacy in a marriage. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Cause and effect are going to continue to operate whether you acknowledge them or not.
Yeah, going back to your house analogy, if you build it with that cheap glue, gravity and wind are going to do their jobs.
Right.
Regardless of how strongly you feel like the house should just stay up.
The wind does not care about your feelings.
Okay.
But, that focus on objective reality, it makes total sense for things like, building a house or developing a career. But human emotions are just so messy.
Oh, totally.
And this leads to what is definitely my absolute favorite part of the source material. Because if true happiness is just the logical, earned result of living in alignment with reality, why is it that when people finally get the promotion, or they finally build the successful business, or establish their independence, their first emotion so often is not joy, it's guilt.
Ah, yes. The false guilt.
The false guilt. This paradox is just so fascinating. The authors dive so deep into this concept. And honestly, it explains so much of our modern anxiety.
It really does. The whole mechanism of that guilt is just fascinating to read about because the text points out how society basically trains producers to apologize for producing.
Yes, that's exactly it. It trains strong people to literally, shrink themselves down just so that other people won't feel small by comparison.
Right, like you have to hide your light.
Right. And when I read that, I just realized how relentlessly we are told that our strengths are actually debts.
Right?
Like, if you are smart, well, you owe your intellect to someone else. Or if you are successful, you need to apologize for taking up space. It's like a moral code that demands you apologize for your virtues, and that is actively teaching you to betray yourself.
And to dismantle that trap, the authors offer this really crucial psychological tool. It's the distinction between earned guilt and unearned guilt.
Okay, let's break that down because this is so important.
Yeah, so guilt itself is not empirical proof that you've actually done something wrong. It's just an emotion. And like any emotion, it can be manipulated by false premises.
Right.
So earned guilt happens when you actually betray a rational value. Like if you lie to a close friend, or if you evade a clear responsibility, or just act beneath your own rational standards.
Like if I just flake on a big project at work because I wanted to go to the beach.
Exactly. You've committed a factual error there. So the guilt you feel is earned, and the proper response is to acknowledge it, make amends, and correct your behavior. Right. The emotion is serving a rational purpose.
Right, it's an alarm bell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But unearned guilt, that's when you feel bad for your independence or your success, or even just setting normal boundaries.
Oh, the boundary guilt is so real.
It is. And you feel it simply because some false moral standard, it's like whispering in your ear that wanting things for yourself is inherently selfish. You haven't actually violated any rational value.
You're just feeling the weight of the societal conditioning.
Yes.
Okay, so let's use a practical example here. Let's say you have a coworker, and this coworker constantly weaponizes incompetence.
Well, we all know one of those.
We all know this guy. He always somehow forgets how to format the weekly report, right?
Right.
So it's Friday at 5 p.m., and you end up just doing it for him every single week.
Classic infuriating scenario.
Exactly. So finally you've had enough, and you set a boundary. You say, look, I'm not doing this anymore. I am going home to my family.
Good for you.
Right. But as you're walking to your car, you feel this massive crushing wave of guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Why? You didn't do anything wrong. You literally just stopped subsidizing someone else's evasion of reality. But that unearned guilt makes you feel like you are the villain of the story. And the authors note that when you start apologizing for the very qualities that help you build a better life, you become incredibly easy to control.
You basically become a perpetual battery for other people's needs.
A battery, wow, yeah.
And that's why earned guilt requires correction, but unearned guilt requires fierce rejection.
Yes. And I think for the listener tuning in right now, the most direct, immediate application of this entire deep dive is to audit your guilt.
Ooh, audit your guilt. I like that.
Yeah, like the next time you feel that heavy, sinking feeling in your stomach, just hit pause. Ask yourself, like, did I actually do something wrong according to facts and my own rational judgment? Or am I just obeying a false moral standard designed to make me compliant?
It's a great question to ask.
If you actually lied or cheated, own it, fix it. But if you're just feeling guilty because you took a weekend to rest instead of, I don't know, helping an acquaintance move a couch for the fourth time,
Right.
throw that standard out. Just
Yeah.
toss it.
It is a really powerful heuristic. But I will say, implementing it naturally raises a massive red flag for people who are hearing this philosophy for the first time.
Okay, yeah, hold on. I actually have to jump in here with probably the most obvious objection to all of this.
Let's hear it.
Because if I completely reject self-sacrifice, right,
Yeah.
and I put my own happiness at the absolute center of my life, doesn't that just make me a narcissist?
Yeah, that's the big fear.
Like, what happens to charity? What
Right.
about, taking care of a sick parent or helping a friend who is going through a terrible divorce? If I'm only focused on my rational self-interest, aren't I just basically abandoning everyone else the moment they become inconvenient?
I am so glad you brought this up, because it is the central friction of this entire philosophy.
Yeah.
And honestly, it brings us to the part of the text that I personally found the most profound.
Okay.
Because the authors don't just ignore that concern. They completely redefine love and charity and generosity, but entirely through the lens of rational self-interest. Yeah, they argue that rejecting self-sacrifice does not mean rejecting kindness. And it certainly doesn't magically turn you into some sociopath devoid of empathy.
Okay. Then how does the math work there? Because if I am deliberately keeping my resources and my time and my energy centered on myself, how am I simultaneously being deeply caring toward other people?
It's all about understanding exactly why you were giving those resources in the first place. Helping a valued friend or, mentoring someone who shows promise or caring for a sick parent, those things can bring enormous personal satisfaction.
Right.
These actions are not actually sacrifices. The authors frame them as profound expressions of your own deepest values. You give because that specific person genuinely matters to you. Their very presence in your life enriches your life.
Okay, let's unpack the causality of that a bit. How does helping a friend actually support my own values?
So think about what a value actually is. Let's say you deeply value honesty and courage and loyalty, and you have a friend who really embodies those traits. They are basically a physical manifestation of what you love in the world.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Right. So when they go through a hard time and you decide to invest your time or money to help them, you are not sacrificing yourself. You are literally investing your own resources to ensure that the traits of honesty and courage continue to thrive in your environment.
Oh, wow. You are funding the world you want to live in.
Exactly. A world without that friend would be a tangibly worse world for you. Therefore, helping them is profoundly self-interested, but in this really beautiful, life-affirming way.
Man, that fundamentally changes the definition of love.
It does. The text calls real love a response to values.
A response to values.
Yeah. You love someone because of who they are. You love their character, the way their mind works, the way they tackle problems. So when you support them, their happiness actually contributes directly to your happiness.
That makes so much sense.
And the critical distinction the authors are making here is giving out of shared value versus surrendering your life to an unearned claim.
Right, the unearned claim.
Yeah. Your time and energy should never just be automatically available to someone just because they learned how to play the victim or they know exactly how to make you feel guilty.
Right.
If a relationship consists solely of someone just demanding your energy while offering zero value in return, like no joy, no shared virtues, no mutual respect.
Which happens a lot.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And if you continue to give to them just out of some vague sense of duty, that is the exact self-erasure the authors are warning us against.
It's like you're just bleeding energy for no reason.
Exactly.
And realizing that completely removes the toxic resentment that builds up in relationships that are based entirely on obligation.
Yes.
So for everyone listening right now, evaluate your social ecosystem. You really have to audit where your energy is going.
Absolutely.
Ask yourself, are your relationships built on reason and voluntary trade and mutual value? Because if they aren't, you need to guard your resources fiercely, ensure you are giving generously to those who truly enrich your life, rather than just bleeding energy because someone, handed you a guilt trip.
And if you apply that rule, I promise your relationships will transform.
Oh, for sure.
But I will add, setting those boundaries, it requires a massive amount of internal armor. If you're used to being a people pleaser, looking someone in the eye and just saying no feels almost impossible.
Yeah, you feel like you're going to die.
You do. Which really raises the next big structural question of this whole philosophy. Where do the authors say that baseline self-esteem actually comes from? Because you needed to say no.
Well, I can tell you where it doesn't come from.
Where is that?
It doesn't come from standing in front of a mirror and just like chanting affirmations at yourself.
Oh, right.
You can't just tell yourself you are valuable and magically believe it. The text actually points directly to productive work. And they aren't just talking about, clocking in at 9 to 5 and pay the bills or aggressively climbing some corporate ladder. They frame productive work as the literal engine of happiness, because it is the mechanism by which you turn invisible thought into visible reality.
That is the absolute core mechanism of self-esteem for them. Think about a woodworker, right? Or maybe someone writing a really complex piece of software.
Okay.
In their mind, they have this invisible concept. It's a blueprint for a chair or a logic tree for a new app. But a concept isn't reality.
Right, it's just an idea.
Yeah. It's only through focused effort and skill and time that they actually manipulate the physical world to match that vision. So when the software compiles and runs perfectly, or, when the chair can safely hold a person's weight, reality is providing objective, undeniable feedback.
Right, reality is grading them. And reality does not care about their intentions. Like, if the woodworker used the wrong joints, the chair breaks, period.
Exactly.
If the coder wrote bad logic, the app crashes.
But when it works, they have generated visible evidence that their mind can successfully navigate and shape the real world.
The visible evidence.
Yeah, that visible evidence is the unfakeable raw material of self-esteem. The authors define real self-esteem as the, quote, earned conviction that you are capable of living.
Yeah.
Every single time you face a fact honestly, or solve a complex problem, or push through the friction of a really difficult project, you are proving your own competence to yourself.
And this is exactly why the authors insist that lasting happiness cannot be separated from character. Like, let's look at the dark side of this for a second.
Okay.
Let's say someone is just a masterful manipulator in the workplace. We all know one.
Oh, yeah.
They steal credit for other people's projects. They constantly flatter the boss, and somehow they manage to get a massive promotion and this huge salary. On paper, they have succeeded.
Right.
But internally, they are rotting.
Because they cannot bypass their own consciousness.
Yeah. Exactly. They know they faked it. They know their mind didn't actually solve those problems or create any real value. Therefore, they cannot acquire the inner harmony of knowing that their values, their competence, and their rewards actually belong together.
Wow. Yeah.
The money might buy them, like, temporary comfort, but it cannot buy them the conviction that they are capable of living in reality. They're just constantly terrified of being found out because their entire existence is just a negotiation with evasion.
Now, that's exhausting.
It is. Lasting happiness requires that you profoundly respect two things: what you achieve and the person you had to become in order to achieve it.
That integration right there of achievement and character, that is the ultimate goal of the Reinhardt essay.
It really is. So let's kind of step back and look at the whole picture we've painted today.
Okay.
The moral purpose of your life is your own happiness. But, as we've explored, it is a deeply demanding, rigorous kind of happiness. It requires thinking clearly. It requires working productively to generate that evidence of your own competence. It requires auditing your emotions, fiercely rejecting false guilt, and really guarding your energy against unearned claims. And ultimately, it requires honoring the one life that only you can live by building a foundation of character that reality itself cannot tear down.
It is such an incredibly optimistic philosophy when you think about it, because it places the locus of control entirely in your own hands.
Yes, exactly.
However, it does raise a pretty uncomfortable question about the era we are currently living in. Just, something for us to mull over as we wrap up today.
Oh, okay. What's the thought?
Well, the authors are adamant that you cannot repeal causality. Right. And that truth requires contact with facts.
Right, the whole reality doesn't negotiate thing.
Exactly. And we just discussed how true self-esteem requires unfakeable physical proof that our minds can shape reality. You have to see the actual results of your work, But look at the modern world. Look at where we are. We spend unprecedented amounts of our lives in highly curated digital spaces.
Social media.
Social media, virtual workspaces, online personas.
Spaces where, I mean, the laws of physical reality don't quite apply.
Exactly. In those digital spaces, you can seemingly fake success indefinitely. You can fake competence with a filter or a carefully worded bio or, AI-generated content or just renting a lifestyle for a photo shoot.
Renting a stationary private jet.
Right. You can maintain this flawless public image and receive a constant stream of external validation without ever actually building the underlying character or producing real-world value.
Wow.
The feedback loop is entirely decoupled from physical causality. So the question is, if true self-esteem relies on friction with reality, is our increasing retreat into these virtual, easily faked digital realities secretly bankrupting our actual self-esteem? Are we starving ourselves of the exact mechanism that creates lasting happiness?
That is a haunting thought. Because if the reward of happiness only comes from living in alignment with reality, then retreating to a digital space where reality is just, like, optional, that means you're basically abandoning the reward entirely.
Yeah.
You can fake the photo, you can farm the likes, but you cannot fake that inner harmony. You're just building a house with cheap glue and praying the wind never blows.
You can postpone the consequences of evasion, but you cannot repeal causality. Eventually, the mind recognizes what is real and what is not.
Which brings us right back to the beginning. You have been handed this bank account, this singular, unrepeatable life. The absolute worst thing you could possibly do is let a false moral standard, or honestly, a fake digital avatar, convince you that you aren't allowed to build something real with it.
So true.
Stop apologizing for wanting your days to add up to something magnificent. Take your life seriously enough to make your own rigorous, earned happiness its absolute purpose.